Hi, we're back in the Slimming World kitchen. I'm Sal Henley and I'm going to cook you a delicious aubergine and pepper balti that comes from our delicious Slimming World Ultimate Curry Cookbook. If you haven't seen this book yet, I really recommend it. You can forget getting a takeaway. You can knock up a great curry within about 20 minutes easily. There's things in here like tandoori broccoli. I personally don't like broccoli, but I would substitute cauliflower in here. It would be delicious with that recipe. Gunpowder potatoes, now I've tried those last week. They were amazing, and it's nothing to do with my cooking ability. Just follow the recipe and you'll have a great meal. And like I said, we're gonna do the aubergine and pepper balti, but there's lots of different ideas from street food in there to traditional Indian recipes to more sort of Asian style curries. So let's get cooking. What I've got here is a bit of aubergine already prepped. You don't want to watch me cut an aubergine forever. This is 1.5 in there, and I'm just going to finish off the other half. Just be very careful when you're cutting on a chopping board. Try and keep everything, the sort of cut side down on the chopping board, and then just use a knife. Make sure it's a sharp knife. Actually, people make the mistake by cutting things with a blunt knife, and that's when it's a bit more dangerous. So just go slowly and get sort of good 2 centimetre chunks there. And then I've got 3 peppers. It could be yellow, red, orange. You could use green if you wanted. I've cut those into sort of petals, really. And then what we're going to do is add those into the oven. But I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of low-calorie spray because we're going to roast them because we want them tinged with little brown bits to again add flavour. You know me, brown equals flavour. So peppers or pepper on the peppers is what I'm doing. And then a bit of salt. And then give that a good toss, like so. And then put that into the oven. It needs to be 200 degrees, 180 fan, gas 6. You put that in. Don't worry about it, put a timer on it, leave it for a good 15 minutes, give it a toss around halfway through, and what you're looking for is lovely tender cooked vegetables with little crispy bits, so you might need an extra 5 minutes depending on your oven. So then what I've got is 3 onions that are just cooking in my favourite little sauté pan, non-stick pan, great for everything. And all I've done is added a little bit of water in there and cooked it for about, I don't know, 10 minutes until it's softened. You know when it's softened, you can see it to the eye, and just give it a little smell. Yeah, it's ready. It's ready. Now, if you don't want to use the peppers and the aubergine, you could use things like sweet potatoes, or you could use mushrooms or courgettes, anything like that. Whatever you've got in the bottom of the fridge you need to use up, this is a great recipe for that. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of curry powder. Now, curry powder is one of those things that you have to adapt according to your family's taste. So you can get mild, medium or hot. If you're going to buy one from the supermarket, just make sure it's got no flour, sugar or oil. Or you could use our DIY curry powder that's in the cookbook. So this is 2 tablespoons going in now. I tend to turn the heat up a little bit for this because I want to cook that out. I don't want that grittiness that you often get in what I call a bad takeaway, and ours is going to be 10 times better than that anyway. Also, remember with curries, it's a really good idea to batch cook them. And then what I would do is if there's anything like yogurt in it, I wouldn't add it at that stage. I would freeze it after you've cooled it down, and then when you're reheating it, slowly add the yogurt, but off the heat, remember, otherwise it might separate. So, you can see that it's going to go quite dry in there, but don't worry about that. The main thing is you're toasting those spices. I like to use a spatula. It's quite a good tool to use. It doesn't scratch your pan or anything like that, and it really gets into the nooks and crannies of the pan. There's a few things I always invest in. Good spatula, good grater and a good knife, chopping board and a pan, and away you go. It's pretty easy. So, of course the Slimming World Cookbook helps, I tell you. So there we go. So we've got onions, and that's cooked out for about, I don't know, 30 seconds. Then we're going to add 200 grams of canned chopped tomatoes. I always like to rinse it out with a little bit of water, just because you're not going to waste anything. My gran was always like that. So don't waste that. She used to use butter papers when she was baking. I used to love that. There we go. And I think that's the thing about cooking. You should get your kids involved with you at this stage. They love sort of stirring things. If you get them involved now, then they're more likely to eat the food once you've cooked it. So we'll give that a stir. Let's turn down the heat, probably about to low, medium. And that just is going to cook for about 5 to 10 minutes. If it looks too dry, just add a little bit of water and stir it occasionally. So after 5 or 10 minutes, you'll see all the onions and tomatoes all cooked down to make a yummy sauce. It just needs the roast vegetables now. So take yourself an oven glove. And then we're going to take the roasted veg out of the oven. And you'll see that the vegetables have really collapsed down because when they roast, that's what's happening. And when we put those into the pan with all the vegetables in there, great, and then we're going to give that a nice stir. And like I said, add lovely things like butternut squash you could roast in there, or sweet potato, anything like that, yum. What about chickpeas? I love chickpeas. So you could drain those and actually roast them in there, and they go slightly hard, but they add a delicious texture to it. Now, that's quite a dry curry. I like mine a little bit saucier, so I tend to add a little bit of water. And then you just want to season it up. And that is it. It's an aubergine and pepper balti, just like that. But we're going to drizzle it up with a little bit of yogurt. And I'm going to thin down the yogurt with a little bit of water. So this is like 2 tablespoons of fat-free yogurt. And, you know, just add enough water so that it's sort of drizzling consistency. Just looks a lot prettier than sort of blobs of yogurt all over the place. There we go. Now, if you wanted, you could add some toasted spices to that. Things like toasted cumin or coriander seeds. You can just crush them once they come out with a can if you wanted to on a chopping board. When I say come out, what I mean is toast them in a dry frying pan and then roll them on your board, chuck them in, and you've got a little spicy yogurt. So we're going to get the dish and add this into there, and then we'll finish it off with that yogurt and also some lovely mint. There's no pressure to get this into the bowl at all. Here we go. How good does that look? And you won't miss meat at all, really won't. But if you do, you can obviously add meat to that if you wanted to. If you're vegetarian but like meat substitutes, you could add that in as well. So that's delicious. Then what we're going to do is drizzle that over the top. And I just give some extra on the table as well. How pretty is that? And then mint. I love fresh herbs. You can buy them very cheap from the supermarket, keep them on your windowsill, buy the actual pots and just give them a bit of water every couple of days and you'll keep those going for a while. She says, I'm not really that green-fingered, but you know, I hope to be that person. Okay, so when you get the mint off the stalks, what you want to do is just sort of roll them up into like a cigar shape. And then this is what we call chiffonade in the industry. It just means thinly sliced. And you just use your knife and you just carefully go along. And then it just gives you sort of ribbons of mint. And it's just a nice little thing to do rather than sort of just chop it up. There we go. So that's the dish there. But I hear you say, what else can go with it? So I'm going to serve this remaining yogurt in a little dish so that people can have that and add it as they want to. But what about a nice little cooling cucumber? I hear you say, what's a cucumber? A cucumber is this. So it's basically cucumber, red onion and tomato finely chopped, and then it's sort of zinged up with a bit of lemon juice and zest and lime. And you can find that in our book, and that can go with it really as a fresh note. And then I hear you say, what about the rice? Well, rice, you can do several different options. These are, again, a few dishes that we've cooked from the book itself. And this is a caramelized onion pilau, and it's really easy to do. And you'll see the rice is yellow, and we've done that through turmeric. So that's an option. Or you can do this lovely yogurty rice, and it's just cooked rice. We've added in some lovely spices, including curry leaves. You can get these sort of dried in supermarkets, and you just fry them off in a little bit of low-calorie cooking spray, and then with other spices, and then you just toss through some yogurt. But again, if you want the recipe, it's in the Ultimate Curry Cookbook. So there you go, it's an absolute feast, and I reckon you can get that whole meal, probably with one rice and cucumber, on the table within 40 minutes.